See, nice and easy, quick and fast, quick and dirty, just like I like it. I am Steve Cully, your host for Husky Hoops, the best sports entertainment program for covering all of UConn athletics, especially UConn basketball. And with me, as always, the voice of the Huskies, the icon, the best of the best, Mr. Joe D'Ambrosia. Happy New Year's, Christmas Eve, Joe.
Merry Christmas Eve, Steve. I don't know if I'd say quick today, but
yeah, right. Very true. Very true. And as always, the lovely Maria Conlon. Maria, it was great to see you Saturday.
Yeah, brief but good.
It was great to meet your little princess of a daughter.
Yeah, she's it really made her day. So I ended up getting tickets like last second. And so I did a little early surprise Christmas present. And it's funny, we were literally surprise. Right behind the bench. Yeah. It was like we were in the huddle. She's never sat that close. You know, normally we sit behind the bench, but like a couple rows. And I don't know about you, Joe, but like I love getting seats behind the bench, but you can't see half the game.
You can't see anything. No,
I can't.
So was your daughter more thrilled to get the seats behind the bench or to meet Steve?
I mean, it's a toss-up, you know.
Yeah,
I don't think she really was too enthralled with meeting me. It was.
We had just lost, so
it was such a tough loss. Yeah. I mean, everyone was dejected. That wow, and I guess we'll go right into it. The mighty USC Trojans versus the UConn Huskies. That was a game of games. They started off really, really slow. And Maria, you mentioned that they needed to get off to a fast start. They needed to take advantage of having the home field advantage, home court advantage. And the women definitely did not. They looked kind of gun shy offensively. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that because it seemed like nobody was really moving inside. There was no real inside presence, inside game. They were taking a lot of outside shots, and it looked like they were like hesitant to shoot. Like nobody wanted to take the shot, even if it was open.
Well, you know, I think USC came out really hot. I mean,
they did.
We got there early, and Joe, I watched Juju Watkins warm up for like a half an hour.
Yeah.
She's even better in person than she is on TV.
She's unbelievable.
She's got like the perfect physique, perfect height. Like she's just so smooth. But you know, I think that what we'll see, and I had said this to somebody the day before the game, I really felt like the only way for us to win that game was to play small. Because I just don't think that when we play Sarah at the 4 and we play Jana or Ice at the 5, because neither one of them can step out and really knock down shots consistently, their girls just sag off and it crowds the lane and it gives us an inability to really run a lot of those cuts that we like to do.
Right.
And I think that honestly, the changing point in the game was towards the end of the third when we did put Sarah at the 5 and went 4 guards. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that type of lineup more.
Right.
Because then they had to extend. And that's when we started to get.
Well, we went on such a
downhill
run.
More and just get more. Yeah. I think the positive thing was like, for a second there, I thought it was going to get really ugly. Like,
well, they were
really ugly, Joe.
They were almost up 20. They were almost up 20.
I watched the whole game, and they were on the verge of getting the doors blown off. In fact, I was texting with a couple of people, wondering what was the last time a UConn women's team got beaten that bad at the XL Center. The one thing that struck me, Maria, watching it on TV was UConn's not physical enough. They can't play. They can't play against a team like that. And if they come up like teams like that against that in the NCAA tournament, they're not going to win. They're just not. They just don't have. They just don't have the body, the physicality to put up with teams like that.
And I think Paige in specific.
Yeah.
Right. Like when we watch her, like if you remember back to like the Diana days or the Maya days or the Stevie days, like they could take contact and be bumped around all game and still kind of get to their spots.
Yeah.
She just can't.
No.
You know, Sarah can. And it's funny because like towards the end, I was like, we gotta run the offense through her. And she kind of took over a little bit towards the end. She made a couple of nice drives at the rim. I thought she got fouled on that last layup. It would have been nice to get that and one there and tie it. But yeah, I just think you know, the only bright side I thought too was we kind of like we tired Juju out a little bit.
Right.
Because we were really physical with her, and I thought going with that smaller lineup, I thought KK came in and played well.
She was unbelievable. She's like the Energizer Bunny out there.
She is, but to be honest, she poses the same problem as the bigs because
I know. Yeah.
They're sagging 5'8" feet off of her and welcoming her to shoot the three.
Yeah.
So we gotta figure something out. You know, maybe a tweak in the offense, like the old days, Joe, where we would bring that big out and make them like a screener passer out there. Because
I think you're hamstrung because, as you said, Maria, I don't think Alfie and Brady can do that. I really think the best lineup is with, as you said, with Strong at the 5. Now, look, they're going to get Fudd back, which is going to open some things up if, and it's a big if, she can stay healthy.
Yeah, she didn't look great when she was in. She looked like she was laboring it a little bit.
Very, very tentative.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, Steve. I was going to use timid, but tentative works. Tentative works too.
Just hesitant.
Yeah, I don't. And like the hard part with that lineup, Joe, is like, how much can you? Is Sarah going to soon be like in the stands selling popcorn too? Because
she can't do well.
Now she's guarding the other team's best big, right? Yeah. And she did a great job because Kiki was killing us a little bit, and I thought she did a really good job muscling her out.
She did.
But that's going to be way more labor intensive for her to have to do that. And like, she's a freshman.
But it's going to make her more prone for foul trouble.
Well, 100%. And then, you know, your legs go a little bit. She's playing 38 minutes a game. Like, I just don't know that that's sustainable. I actually thought that El Afi gave us good minutes when she was in there. She had 4 or 5 rebounds. I thought she was a solid D. But
is that the Egyptian girl? Is that the Egyptian girl? Yeah.
But again, then on offense, they're sagging 5-7 feet off of her, and we can't cut anywhere. So it's like, you know, 6 and 1, half a dozen.
It's sacrilegious to say Sarah Strong is the best player on the team.
Maria said that 2 weeks ago.
I just think the proof. Yes, I know you said that earlier.
I was shocked to hear it too. But
I think she's with no disrespect to Paige, but Paige has games where she kind of floats and disappears, which is kind of shocking to me. They've got, and they will, because it's the best coaching staff in the country, but they've got to get her confidence back up to where she can't just take over games against the weak Big East teams. I'm sorry. She's got to do it in games like this. She's got to do it against Tennessee. She's got to do it against South Carolina when they play.
The physicality is a big.
Seen her hide too much.
Hi, Coach Schuman.
Physicality is a big issue for her, I think, because as teams understand what that limitation is, they work that against her. I mean, they try to bounce her around, and I think that you could see in that game that becomes, that could be distracting for your confidence. And if it's not something that she likes to do, just like the foul at the end that they called on her, which I thought was kind of like a bogus foul. But it was because she didn't want to take the contact. You know what I mean? She kind of slightly extended her hand, which I thought was a ticky-tack foul to call on her. But if she was comfortable taking contact, she would have just taken the contact and set the pick and got ran over. You know what I mean?
Well,
but she's just not comfortable with it.
Remember, that's the same call they made on Aaliyah Edwards last year in the Final Four against Iowa. So I don't know what you
wow.
think. That's the way that's legislated, that's a foul. You can't move your.
Yeah, I mean, in live play, it was tough because my angle was bad. But then I looked up at the screen, and actually, because I was so close behind the bench, they have an iPad behind the bench now, and like, they'll go and they'll look through it. So I was able to see Morgan like go through it. She was moving a little bit, and she did extend her arm.
Yeah.
So I wasn't I was fine with that foul call. I think back in the day when we used to knock each other around.
That's not a foul when you play. That's not a foul.
No. But now that is. It's a foul.
Right. It's the way the game is called. So.
I mean, listen, that the foul that they called on Juju was really close too.
Right. Look,
I actually thought that one was more questionable because I don't know. I mean, Sarah fell, so she sold it a little bit.
Right.
But if I'm the USC head coach, I'm kind of like, really? Because listen, this kid, she plays both sides of the ball. She's got great length, but she also has great timing. I mean, she blocked a couple of big shots on the outside.
Knocked it into the third row.
But let's stay on the Paige topic for a second, because I think this is a crucial conversation, right? Like, we have now, to your point, Joe, I don't really care if you can take over a game versus Georgetown.
Right. I agree. I totally agree.
Or Butler.
And like, in no way did she. I mean, she made some decently big shots the other day. But like I said earlier, the last 2.5 minutes of the game, Sarah Strong wanted the ball and took over and did what we needed to do on both ends. Right. I mean, this kid's scoring, and then now she's going down and she's getting a big rebound on the other end. I mean, she's going to start selling popcorn soon. I'm sure of it. Like, it's crazy.
Look, kids are going to miss shots, Maria. But if you're Beckers, that little baseline jumper to tie the game, you have got to make that shot.
Not only that, but what are your thoughts? I have 2 questions for you, Joe. One, Sarah Strong misses the last free throw, right? Paige gets the rebound. Now, if you're Paige, 2 things. Let's face it. If this is Diana Taurasi and she gets that rebound, is there any scenario in this planet that she kicks it out to Barbara Turner at the top of the key?
No hesitation. She's going to take that shot all day long.
But I will say this. I totally agree with you, Maria. But I think 2 things there. I don't think Paige had full control of the ball. I think all she could do was slap it. And look, Diana is 1,000 times more physical.
Yes.
So she could muscle that up, maybe even draw a foul. But you're right. I mean, if you can get your hands on the ball, both hands on the ball, then you just got to go up to the hoop with it, because you get a good chance of being fouled, which they probably don't call in that scenario. But at least you force them to make a call, and you got a 4-foot shot, not a 34-foot shot.
So, second question on that: should we have called a timeout?
No, I don't think you could have called. You mean in the last sequence or in that?
Yeah. So I actually had a conversation. Morgan actually called me on my way home from the game, and she was like, "What are your thoughts?" And I said, "You know what's funny?" I go, in live, while I was sitting there, I was actually behind the bench yelling timeout, hoping maybe somebody, because I think we had way more time than we realized. Even when Sarah caught it, she had 2.7 seconds.
Yeah.
So even at that point, like, I don't think she realized how much time she had. She could have actually taken a dribble and gotten in rhythm, right? Because it was scrambled.
Yeah.
But 2.7 seconds left. I'd rather call a timeout and set up a really good look going somewhere than her taking a 37-footer. I don't know.
I don't have a real big problem, Maria, with not calling a timeout there, because oftentimes when you call a timeout there, the biggest problem you have is getting the ball inbounds. And if they put a big kid on the inbounder, that makes it even more difficult to get it where you want to go. I mean, I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Yep. Obviously, the game was lost. The game was lost in the first half. That's pure and simple. You know, as great as the comeback was, it seemed that every time UConn scored, USC had an answer for them. So, you know, I mean, it just – look, they made a nice comeback. But, again, against a quality opponent, and we talked about that, and then Coach mentioned it when he came on. The physicality of the game is something that this team's going to struggle with all season long. They're not just physical player. Their frames are just the way, it's just who they are. It's nothing about strength and conditioning or anything like that. There's only so much you can do. They're just from Paige to Chelly to the point guard,
Chen,
to Chen, to Ashley Shade, to Kiki. They're just not physical kids. That's just it. They're not staunch. They're slight.
Even to take it further, Joe, like, and maybe when AZ comes back, she can be this. But again, that's just, to me, that's just such a huge question mark right now. I can't even.
I don't think you can count on her.
I can't get behind it. We need a third threat.
Right.
We can't have two kids picking up almost 60 of our 70 points. Like, and it doesn't have to be the same person every game, but it's got to be like, we can't have, this one's got 4, this one's got 2, this one's got 4. Like, we need a third person in double digits every game.
I think it could be Shade. That's who I would imagine. And the thing that's gone unnoticed because she's been out so much. If Caroline Ducharme had been healthy, she could have been that third player.
But she's
you
not
can't.
playing.
No,
I don't think she's ever going to play again.
I understand that, but I'm just saying when they constructed the roster 2 or 3 years ago, that's what they had, and for her to have such a good freshman year and then come up with all the head injuries, and it's just too bad because I really liked her game. I liked
she moved so well without the ball. Her and Paige played really well together. Yeah, I mean she's like a kid that plays almost like a European style.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So when they originally constructed the roster, I guarantee, a couple of years ago, I guarantee that was the role they had for Carol. And if you had Carol with Strong and Paige and AZ, then you've got a really good offensive team. Then they can't single out Beckers or Strong, But unfortunately, as you say, whether we ever see Ducharme on the floor again, we'll never know. And even if she does play, after sitting out as much as she has, how much of an impact can she have? I mean, she doesn't look like she'll ever be back.
No, and I sitting where I sat, I actually watched a lot of the stuff on the bench. I think she's become almost like player coach on the bench. Like a couple of times I saw her go over to KK before KK went in and kind of amp her up. So I think she's trying to find her way from a role perspective, but in terms of it being productivity on the court, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. But I
it's too bad.
My next question is like, I know we got this kid coming in from Spain next year, but like, we're gonna have to hit the portal because if Paige leaves, assuming she leaves, which I think she should, like, who we got to help Sarah the next 3 years?
Right. Well, Fudd.
If Fudd stays, I mean, she could leave too. I don't know.
I think she needs another year.
Oh, I don't disagree with you on that, but there's been talks that she might leave when Paige leaves. But even still, and I like Fudd, but she's another one that we've yet to see her take over a game.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a little concerning. I know that our staff will figure it out, right? They always do. But we need some other pieces around Sarah Strong for the next.
Well, and I think what you need physical pieces, not necessarily 6'4", 6'5", but sturdy 6'2", sturdy 6'3", sturdy 5'11".
You need another kid built like her. Doesn't have to be as talented as her.
Right, exactly.
But as physical as her.
Yep, I agree.
Joe, I wanted to ask you because I was watching Paige the entire game, and it seemed to me like she was passing up shots, trying to get other people involved. And, she had some open looks. She had opportunities where she had one-on-one matchups she could have taken advantage of. And she looked like she was passing them up to get other people involved and not taking control of the game like obviously the player from USC did. Anytime she had the ball, she was taking control and she was shooting. There was no hesitation in her mind.
Well, I think part of Paige's role this year has been to be a facilitator. In a game like that, she can't do that. And don't forget, she also had 2 shots blocked in the open floor, which you never see with her. They clean out, blocked her, not going to the hoop, but shooting a jump shot, and that's something you never see. We can't get inside anybody's head, and I'm not trying to. But you wonder if this has worn her down, having to be the player all the time. I'm sure she imagined coming in or when they recruited Fudd that it would be her and Fudd because they were buddies. And even though Strong has clearly been the best freshman in the country, maybe and probably the Big East Player of the Year, she's probably going to win both awards. If she stays healthy and keeps playing like she is. I wonder how much of this is. I wonder how much Paige is ground down.
Yeah, Dave, did you see at all the press conference after the game when they were asking what Gino said to them? And
no, Gino, I did not.
Gino basically said, "Go home over Christmas break."
Oh, no, you know what? I did see that. Yes. Well, I mean, I think that's like, and Marie could correct me, but like that's a kinder, gentler version of what he probably would have said. What I think was really interesting about the end of the game. First of all, Paige, I feel like is like a good shooter, but I don't feel like she's an elite shooter. Like I'm always expecting her to like hit that shot that you're like, that's what Tarazi would have hit. You know what I'm saying? Like I keep thinking it's gonna happen, and it just for some reason it doesn't happen. In some games it does. Maybe like what you were talking about against lesser opponents. Maybe she is. Obviously I'm probably watching most of the bigger games. So that's where I'm seeing it most times because I'm not watching every single game. But it's an interesting thing. Like I almost feel like in the WNBA where she doesn't have to be the person. She doesn't have to like she might be more effective as the other person. Who swings around and shoots and kind of gets in the lane and can distribute the ball a little bit, can do this and that. But like that, I think that is like to be in the team that can win the championship. I feel like that they're just missing. They're missing the physicality, like what Joe said. They're missing that overall. And even though Sarah is very, very physical, she's strong, she can move, she can shoot. She's not 6'4", you know what I mean? So for her to have to do that all the time probably wears on you over the course of a game. So even though she's an unbelievable player, but for her to, and obviously a freshman shouldering all that, which she seems to do it pretty amazingly, but that's also a difficult process. I feel like Paige has to add another, for lack of a pun here, page to her book as far as what she can do to take her to the next level. Like she's got to come up with an additional skill that separates her to take them to the next level, and that will complement Sarah Strong and the other players, I think, really well. Because I mean, it's amazing how Sarah can go inside, she can go outside. Like when she got that shot, even though it was a ridiculous shot that she had to take, you kind of feel like maybe she could make it. You know what I mean? Like
she didn't hesitate.
She has that kind of aura to the way she plays.
Well, you know what? I'm just looking at the numbers here, Coach. Beckers is only taken 5 threes per game. She's only taken 41 threes in 8 games. I think she's got to get up 8 or 9 a game, especially against the better team. Now, her shooting percentage overall, she's shooting 55%, which is the best of her career. So I would just like
one of the best in the country right now. Wasn't she leading the country? And
in field goal percentage. I just like to see her take more threes. I think that's important.
I think the issue with Paige and you compare it to, Diana, if that's the example you use. I don't think Paige has the same range, right? Like I think Paige she's a 3-point line, 3-point shooter, if that makes sense, right? Like I don't think she has the capability like a Caitlin Clark or a Diana where she can come 3 or 4 feet behind a ball screen. Girl goes under it and she can pull it. I don't think she has that range to her game. So I think it's got to be, an online shot, meaning on the 3-point line. And I think she needs a little bit more time with the way she sets up her shot too. I mean, listen, she's got the best mid-range game, maybe besides Juju, that we've seen in a long time. Like she's money from 18, 15 feet. But I think the thing for me with Paige that I think she needs to add, she has to be the one that makes sure that she takes those shots. Like that's the difference that I'm seeing, right? When you compare her to some of the greats that have played at UConn, like there was no way Juju Watkins was passing that ball at the end. Like she has that here. Like, no, I'm that person. I'm taking that. She also, by the way, Paige has way better players to play with. Like if you look at USC, you look at UConn, that's the sad part too. Like the bigs, Kiki played great for USC.
That was all,
Outside of that, she really doesn't have much to play with. And I still don't think she shoots enough. But Paige actually has some people to play with that can score on the perimeter. And she's still not taking that shot. Like I think to your point, Joe, like that baseline jumper that she missed, like you got to make that.
Right.
You got to make that. You got to find like Sarah Strong took that shot with 5 seconds left. You got to find a way to make that be you. But I do think that part of that is the physicality. She gets bumped off her spots way too easy. So she can't get the ball there.
I agree. The example I would use to switch to the guys here is she doesn't get off the shot the way like an Alex Caravan does. She doesn't have that kind of
range.
Kind of release for that kind of range. You're
right. I 100% agree. And not only that, but she also doesn't do as many of the intangibles that Alex does, right? Like, and I like
they're two different.
They are, but I'm just saying from being.
And look, let's not make this just a pick on Paige.
No. I mean, listen,
adventure.
She had 20-something points. She brought them back. Right. She played well.
Right. She played well. She didn't play great.
I think that what we do as UConn people in the state of Connecticut, like it's Paige Beckers. Like she has some limitations, right? Like we know that about her.
Yeah.
And
she's not perfect.
That's okay, right? Like you got to play within your limitations. I just, when you start to have her in the same conversation as some of these other people, to me, it's just, it's not even a conversation because I've yet to see her take that big shot. Joe, Meg Humo and I have had this conversation, and Meg brought up a great point to me.
Yeah.
Last year in the semifinals against Iowa, where Aaliyah Edwards gets called for that moving screen. Now, Paige played awful that game. She was not great all game. She was tired, like rightfully so, but she did not play great. It was not a great showing for her.
Right.
I don't know, like Meg says, Maria, like, I don't know if she would have made it if she shot it. And I don't know what that would have done to her mentally.
I said that from the minute it happened.
Yeah.
Everybody thought
it was probably the best thing in the world that it got called an illegal screen and she didn't have to take that shot because I don't know that she had that in her.
Right.
And again, that's okay. Right. Like,
you brought up a good point too before about that she got anointed as the person very early on, right? And been around because of the injuries. She's been around obviously for a long time because of the injuries. So she's been anointed as that person. It was almost like maybe she was anointed that to, or as probably press that anointed her. And obviously Gino loves her, but when you get anointed that and your skills haven't gotten to that point yet, it can be. I think it can be. I mean, she's still a kid. I mean, she's still. I mean, I know she's an adult, but she's a young person, and that part. She never had I don't think she ever really had a chance to adapt to that, and she wasn't Diana's personality. You know what I mean? Where like she was Diana's physical. Like you said, could shoot from anywhere, and you said before she could brush things off Diana so well, right? So she was equipped for that, right? But Paige never had a chance to really grow into it, probably because of the injuries, and then expected to come right back with the injuries, expected to come right back and be a match like a Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird, like that level of ability, which may have been unfair, to be honest. It may have been an unfair thing. Like it may be that she's really an all I see her as an all around player, like a person that could do a lot of things pretty well, but not necessarily. I mean, maybe the jumper might be her best thing, but not necessarily like an expert in one area, right? And that allows her to do a lot of things, but could be tough in the game when the game's on the line, because it's not. Are you the person that's the go-to person for that moment?
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I don't. I don't. The anointed thing. She came here with so much publicity, and when you come to UConn women's basketball and men's with that much publicity, people are going to expect things. And look, she took them to the national championship game as a freshman. She took them to the Final Four last year. I just think she's been beaten up a little bit. She's not physical. It's been a long road. I'm not sure I'm going to call somebody who makes $1 million NIL a kid by any stretch of the imagination.
Nor are we going to feel that bad for her either. She got anointed into being a millionaire, but
yeah.
I definitely don't feel bad. I'd like to have that million myself.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that all of these points it feeds into what UConn has created, right? These unrealistic expectations of what you're supposed to do when you're there. Like, all right, the kid doesn't have a national championship. She's been to a couple of Final Fours. That's still really, really good.
Absolutely.
Like I think we fall into that trap in Connecticut of like, you're not that good if you don't have a couple of rings, but that's not necessarily the case, right?
It's all or nothing. Yeah.
And let's move on to boys hoops. But I agree with Joe. I think that like that's why she came to UConn, right? Was to kind of be anointed.
Exactly.
Like she was the number one recruit coming out of high school. So wherever she went, she was going to be anointed as the best player. So, whether she lives up to the hype or she has or she hasn't, who knows? There's still a lot of season left. There's still a lot of adjustments.
Right. I think plenty of time for her to take her rightful place among the greats.
I just want to see her take one of those big shots, Joe. That's all I want. I just want to see her do it.
Well, take it and make it.
Yeah, but at least take it, right? Because we've seen when you go to every level of basketball, there's some really great players out there that have just never been able to hit that big shot, right? Like, who've won a lot of games, who've won whatever there. So,
right,
we'll see.
Joe, the last question I had for you was near the end of the game. I thought they should have fouled because they didn't have a lot of time left when they got the ball back. I thought they could have fouled. They ended up fouling, but they fouled late and they left themselves less time on the clock. So that was the only thing I was curious about.
Yeah, they still got a good
foul.
Strong, no, I don't agree. Strong got a good shot off when she got fouled. I mean, everybody does it differently, but
yeah. And in those situations, it's like, okay, so you foul. Now if they make all their free throws, now you're turning it to a 2-possession game,
right,
instead of a 3-possession game. So I liked it because there was still enough time for us to get the ball back.
I
right,
agree.
with the shot clock.
I
So
agree.
I don't disagree with the not fouling, especially because, by the way, Juju wasn't passing it.
Right.
No,
I was surprised she missed that one free throw. She's usually money from the line. So, you foul her. Now you're down 5 points instead of 3 points. It's tougher.
Switching over to the men, Joe, I loved in Hurley's press conference, he was asked about their record in conference openers, and he had hoped to put it to rest because of the way they played against Xavier. I thought it was funny because you had mentioned it, that they struggled in conference openers, and they came out and they took care of business.
Well, they had to go to overtime at home against a team that's not great. So they won the game.
Right.
My takeaway, and it'll be perceived as negative, is they won 2 games in which they had big leads and saw those and frittered those leads away. Now, look, the Big East stinks in men's basketball.
Stinks.
There's no other way of saying it. If they get 4 teams in the tournament this year, they'll be lucky.
Right.
They got they managed to come through in the clutch against Xavier. You're at home. The building was electric. At Butler, you almost pissed that one away.
Yeah.
They were good signs, but I'd be concerned about that. I'm sorry. That's the way I think. If you have aspirations to win another national championship, those are games that can't go from 16 points to 4. They have to go from 16 to 25 against opponents like that.
Right. Dominating in the Big East Conference is not what it used to be. And there's other conferences out there that are better, and it's not going to get them ready for March Madness when tournament time.
Yes and no. I mean, it did last year. The Big East only got 3 teams.
They got hot.
Big East only got 3 teams in the tournament last year. I mean, I don't think you worry about your competition. I think you worry about yourself and getting better as a team. And certainly we've seen McNeely step up. He's by far the best player on the men's team. It's ironic that the 2 best players on each team are freshmen between Strong and McNeely. I think Diarra has established himself as the point guard.
Which you said.
I think the bench is still too inconsistent. You get good production from Reed, but Mahaney has a good game and a bad game. Stewart has a good game and a bad game. Ross has a bad game and a not so bad game. Ball's been really good. Caravan seems to have found his groove again. Sampson is what he is. He's not physical. He's gonna be a guy that gets you 6-8 points a game on alley-oops and rebounds, but he's not going to block shots. I think Reed gives you more as far as rebounding and an inside presence.
The physicality,
is
I like Reed.
Yeah, I do.
I like Reed a lot.
I do too. And you know what I like about Reed, Maria, is he knows who he is. He's not trying to step out and take 3-point shots. He knows his areas to paint.
He plays totally within himself. Love it.
Exactly. So the bottom line on the men is they took care of business last week. They won 2 games they should have won.
Right.
They're off and running in the Big East. And now you watch to see improvements that they make from game to game.
Right. And this is the first time. I mean, they're going to have some time off before they go back. And I think that'll help too, because it's been a rough road early on, and physical and injuries and trying to find the right lineup. And I think some time off will do each team good. And especially the women, because there's not so much the injuries, but they've had them, but there's so much pressure on the women. And
Joe, I'm curious your thoughts on this, maybe Maria's too. Do you think the men may benefit from not having to have a hammer schedule of like the SEC or the Big Ten. Do you think that being in the Big East can possibly work in their favor? Even though obviously the teams are good, they don't have as many hammers. Do you think that possibly works in their favor, meaning like keeping guys kind of maybe more healthy, being able to play more guys, you know what I mean? Play more guys and still have a good chance to win that game? I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts.
There's 9 guys, maybe Ahmad Noel is the 10th that they play. But I think what you hit the nail on, Coach, is the Big East. It's not as physical. You may have some physical moments, but you're not running through the gauntlet like you would in the SEC. And look, last year they ran the table in the Big East, so the fact that it was a mediocre league didn't hurt them when it came to March, because their game got better game by game. So they've played 7 strong teams in the non-conference, 6 in Dayton. They went 4-3, which is fine. Everybody wanted them to go 7-0, but that wasn't going to happen. And now you just, I think you've got your rotation. I think DR is the starter at the point. I think you try to play Mahaney 8 to 10 minutes a game when DR is not in foul trouble. That Stewart is going to be the first big off the bench. Ross is going to be kind of like a Swiss Army knife like Ball, and you know what you're getting in Reed for Sampson. So they have their roles kind of laid out for them, and now it's just a matter of getting better every game.
Where on the women's side, you think that there's still work to do in finding the right roles and finding the right lineup that's going to work for them.
You got the same thing on the women's side, right? Because the Big East for the women is not very strong either.
Not at all.
No.
Not anywhere near as physical as the the Big Ten and some of these other conferences. But so I think that benefits them as well. I mean, they still have some tough out of conference games coming up in South Carolina, and it is what it is there. But again, I do think that benefits them, with hopefully trying to stay a little healthy, because you should have some big blowout games coming up where you can rest some of these kids that are playing a lot of minutes right now. And I agree on the men's side. I think it definitely benefits them. I mean, we look fresh when we get to March, where you got some of these teams that are limping out of conference play,
beaten up,
really beat up. And we've lucked out, I think, the last 2 years, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, with some seeding and the way that's broken down on the men's side.
Look, anytime your path takes you through Boston or New York City, you've lucked out.
Yeah. And I do think that we've lucked out in terms of who we've drawn as well, with not getting some of those way more physical teams early on because of our seeding, because of, running the table in the Big East. So I think that stuff definitely all benefits us. Now, will we be as battle tested when it comes there? Who cares?
Especially with this, I was going to say especially with this group, but last year was a relatively new group with kids in different roles, and they managed to roll through. So I don't think the fact that this team is also relatively new will be a factor. And plus, I think the Big East tournament helps you get ready for the bright lights and the big venues. I mean, playing in Madison Square Garden will do nothing but help you get ready for wherever you go in the NCAAs.
Hey, Coach. Yeah. Oh, you're on twice. No, I totally agree. And I think playing in the Big East, won't that give them confidence, because they should be playing a lighter schedule, lighter competition. That will build these kids' confidence by the time they get to the tournament. And
I don't think you worry about. I don't think you worry about confidence.
No,
I think you either got it or you don't. I don't.
You don't.
I don't think you build it in a 30-point win or a 20-point win.
Right. Hopefully we get to that point, though, Joe. I mean, we've skated by these couple of conference games.
Right. I agree. I agree. And sometimes you win close games, and it can give you a little confidence. That you can do it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This might be just one of those years where we just grind it out every game. I mean, who knows?
Right.
I don't know. I haven't seen on the men's side yet our ability to get up, 15, 20 points and then push the dial to 30, 35. It seems like we get to 15 and we're letting people hang around. So
Right.
I think that should be more of a focus come Big East play is like, okay, we get these guys down 10, 15. Now we got to make that 30.
Yep.
Instead of letting them,
and Hurley mentioned that after the Butler game, is that games like that have to go from 15 to 20 or 25. They can't go from 15 to 2 and have it be life and death, especially on the road. I think that's a formula for disaster on the road.
You can't keep letting these teams hang around.
No.
So I'll ask both of you, because I know we got to get off soon. Your last thoughts as they go into break, when they come back. What is one thing you would like to see the men's and the women's team improve on the next game when they come back on January 1st? After
the women come back Sunday, Steve. They don't have that big a break.
Oh, the women are back Sunday. Okay,
they have 7 days, which it is a normal in season break. So
the guys
have 10 days off. The women only have 7, and they'll all be back Thursday to practice.
Right.
So it's not like they're away for a long time.
Right.
Go ahead, Maria.
But it's enough to make.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me on the women's side, I think out of the games that I've watched, which has been pretty much all of them, we got to figure out a way to get a better flow on offense. I think we're resulting to a little bit more one-on-one play than I've seen us do in the past, where, people are kind of standing around waiting for Sarah and Paige to do something. I think, the focus really should just be on getting just a little bit more flow. Like I said, getting a couple of kids scoring 8 to 10 points a game is crucial as we go to the back half. I like what we're doing defensively. I don't really think that's really been a huge struggle. So I think it's fine there. I like when we push the tempo a little bit on defense. I think we saw that in the second half of the USC game. We saw that. Like, I even watched the Holy Cross game that we played, and we limped through the first half, and then it was like someone turned on our jets in the second half. I think our guards like KK and Chen have to do a better job of pressuring the guards and wreaking havoc a little bit more on the perimeter to take off some of that pressure in the half court. So I'd like to see that. I think on the men's side, for me, is exactly what I just said, is finding a way to switch that gear where, we got people down. Now we got to bury them, nail the coffin, and extend it, versus letting people hang around, or what I would say on the men's side.
I would agree with both those points. I think for the women, get off to better starts. Don't be coming from behind all the time, especially when you play South Carolina and Tennessee. Get out of the gates better. And on the men's side, it's just consistency. See the guys off the bench, Stewart and Ross and Noel when he plays, Mahaney. Just see them be more consistent. See them understand their roles and fulfill them. And I think those are the two things you're looking for.
Yeah. And they definitely hit a home run with Sarah Strong and Liam McNeely. I think, honestly, Chen has been very impressive as well on the women's side. I think she's done a phenomenal job running the point and being in there. I was very impressed with her play.
Joe, you come up on the break and you pull up for a quick shot, 15-footer. You better make that one, man, if you're Chen.
She did. I know.
Towards the end there, that was because that was back-to-back. We had Paige.
I don't think the Hall of Famer was real pleased with that shot selection.
No, I don't think so either. But listen, that's one of those, if it goes in, you're a hero. If not,
right,
man,
you're zero. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I hear you. Well, for Maria, thank you once again. I know you have some time off, and then you guys are playing, is it Cobleskill or Elmira?
We got Elmira Sunday.
Elmira Sunday.
Sunday. Yep.
That's why I'm gonna try to get out to that if I can after the bowl game. Joe D, the icon himself, the voice of the Huskies, the best of the best. Thank you so much for taking your time on Christmas Eve to be with us and to go over these games.
No place I'd rather be.
There's no place you'd rather be. And we definitely wish everyone a Merry Christmas. And we'll hopefully be back next week. And thank you again. And Dave, great to see you. And remember, this is Husky Hoops. And I'm the best podcast host in the universe, at least for now. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back in.